Circling back to our top story, ousted South Korean President Yoon has issued an apology. He says he's sorry for failing to meet expectations. This comes right after the country's constitutional court upheld his impeachment over a short-lived martial law declaration in December, which officially removed him from office. For more on what this means for South Korea, we're joined by Professor Hwang Kyung Moon from the Korea Foundation at the Australian National University, who's joining us live from Seoul. Professor Hwang, South Korea's constitutional court unanimously voted in favor of stripping Yoon Suk-yeol out of presidency. Was this widely expected?
I think so. For those who were not only in the progressive camp, but people who are specialists in the law, people who simply were observers of what happened on the night of December 3rd as well. If you add them all together, there was a solid majority who expected this ruling, not necessarily a unanimous ruling, although that I think also was expected to a considerable extent. There was, however, a significant component of the population that expected exactly the opposite ruling. And so for them, it was a big shock. And of course, among them were Yoon's lawyers, his political backers in the political party, the main conservative political party, and most importantly, Yoon himself, who was stripped not only of his office today, but of all kinds of benefits such as his pension and other things due to this ruling, when he could have actually resigned from office at any time after December 3rd, even up to this morning. And some people were expecting that he might actually do that. But apparently he was so convinced that the verdict would go otherwise that he did not resign, but rather he has been fired from his job.
Exactly. So from president now to civilian, and quoting your words, it was expected that 8 justices would unanimously vote for his impeachment. But as you also mentioned, the country is split. We were seeing mixed reactions towards the president being stripped out of the office. And the Constitutional Court has cited that apart from the political repercussions caused by President Yoon's martial law, there's also many consequences South Korea has been facing over the past months, whether it be in economy or diplomacy. So could you tell us the exact scale of damage the political turmoil has cost South Korea?
Well, it's difficult to gauge. It's comprehensive, probably, and we'll have to wait a while to see the depth of the damage, the scale of the damage that this extraordinarily foolish and terrible decision that this obviously unqualified man made as president back on the night of December 3rd. Actually, it was planned, as it turns out, far in advance, up to perhaps half a year, as more and more evidence has come out. I think in terms of the politics of the country, the polarization that has reached a fever pitch due to the aftermath with the impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court, and all the political wrangling at the highest level of the National Assembly and of Korean politics. In those terms, the damage is probably unfathomable. And the only hope is that institutions such as the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court, in this case, the separation of powers, all those things that are fundamental to a liberal democracy, will hold up and have shown a resiliency despite being attacked by Yoon and his supporters, especially among the high-level politicians in his party, whose behavior has been shocking over the past 4 months.
And I want to focus on what you mentioned just now. South Korea's public and politics is polarized now more than ever. How exactly is that going to be exacerbating liberal democracy, as you just said?
Well, I think it's a phenomenon that you see in many other countries around the world. And of course, many people have commented on this and analyzed the origins of this, the causes of this phenomenon of polarization. Of course, the internet, social media, those have had a significant impact. The rise of dictators and dictator wannabes, such as Yoon or Trump and others around the world, within democracies or democratic systems has gone hand in hand with the polarization of people into their respective communities. And it's a problem that will require significant attention in South Korea as well. In South Korea being one of the most high-tech places, especially concerning internet development and the development of social interaction through the internet. Perhaps for South Korea, this challenge would be even greater than many other democratic countries.
And speaking of how it's going to be affecting liberal democracy, another growing demand since Yoon imposed this martial law was actually changing South Korea's constitution, specifically regarding limiting the authority a president has before being able to enforce such a heavy decree. Tell us more about the calls for amending the constitution and how plausible this may be now.
Well, there are two ways of amending the Constitution, I suppose, to prevent something like this. One is simply to add more provisions, and you can do that without necessarily amending the Constitution, but just through more legislative means that prevent or add more tripwires when something like this is brewing. The other way to amend the Constitution is to scrap the current Constitution and establish a completely new constitutional system. And many people have been talking about that most recently, although it's been discussed for at least a couple of decades. And the path toward that solution would be to go from a presidential system to a parliamentary system of government. The thinking is that the presidential system is more vulnerable to strongmen, bad strongmen. I don't know if there are other kinds, but strongmen with very bad intentions, like Yoon, from rising and gaining not only power, but the means by which he takes control or tries to take control like this. So that debate, if anything else has come out of this that's maybe positive, perhaps that debate, which is I think worthy of having, will take on greater urgency as we move forward.
And moving forward, we are expecting a snap election in South Korea to be taken within the next 60 days. In the meantime, thank you so much for your insight. That was Professor Hwang Kyung Moon from the Korea Foundation at the Australian National University.